Morning, everybody. So we shall move on, right? We continue with modern India, the lecture 2. So we stopped with 1857 yesterday. I asked you to do some homework, and I also asked you to work on the fall of the Mughals. You will encounter that more in detail under your medieval history lecture. All right. Now, what we will be doing today is from 1857, which we'll look at quickly. We'll be fast forwarding up till 1916 and looking at all the events in between with some concepts. Okay. But in modern India, as far as your prelims is concerned, the conceptual part is not that important. Facts, so some sort of interrelationship between these two. All right. So we won't be looking at, for instance, the analytical element much. All right. Because I think you can read that or revise that from your books itself. But the rest of it we'll be dealing. Okay. So let's start. So yesterday I asked you to do some work on this. The causes: political, economic, socio-cultural, military, administrative, right, of 1857. So I've just mentioned some of it, so that to just give I said a quick recap will be done. So what were the political causes? The annexation of Oudh in 1856 with doctrine of lapse, right? The subsidiary alliance system, the doctrine of lapse. So these were all political moves, right? Another one was abolition of titles of royal families. So the princely states, which they came to be called later after 1858, got pissed off. Okay, fine. Economic causes. We looked at this in much more detail yesterday. The three revenue settlements, which are what? Zamindari, Rayotwari, Mahalwari. All right. I asked you to do some homework where I asked you to put the 5 columns and everything. So I hope you have done that. All right. So other things with economic causes. Basically, because of this, the peasants were impoverished. All right. The money lenders were exploiting the people. So there was a lot of resentment building against the British in general. And so the people also supported the rebels. Okay. Now, once you've screwed up the land reforms, then what happens is, the agriculture has a close proximity with the handicraft industry because they're all rural and small industries, right? Once we disrupted the agricultural pattern, what happened is these guys also became jobless. Okay, because most of them, they would be from the same family. So when the entire family is impoverished, then these people also become jobless. All right, and then they come into agriculture. That leads to overcrowding of agriculture. And as it is, agriculture doesn't pay you much. There's so much taxation, right? So everything gets destroyed. Of course, the handicrafts and industries also get their backs also get broken due to other kinds of industrial reforms that the British bring about, right? Like the railways and all of that, right? And various laws where they, for instance, we saw the Charter Act of 1813, where they banned Indian goods to go to Britain, and it was one-way traffic of goods was only allowed, right? So then there was high taxation, which also caused resentment and all of that. Okay. Next is quickly administrative causes. The Indian aristocracy, that is the nobles, they lost their privilege, right? So for them, it was also a matter of pride. So it was more of an emotional outburst. That is how people, it was not an ideological movement, right? because India didn't understand what ideology is at this point. The Indians at that point, right? So no higher posts in administration for Indians, including the aristocracy. Loss of jobs due to English language. So a lot of the Persian scribes lost their jobs, Persian clerks. Loss of patronage for artists. Right. So basically, now what happened with subsidiary alliance and doctrine of lapse and things like that, the Rajas and the princes who used to patronize the artists lost their jobs also. Right. So when they lost their jobs over there, then they would go back to their families and do agriculture. That would further deteriorate the land, and it would lead to further deindustrialization and ruralization of the peasantry. So, yeah. So you see how this sort of cycle goes about. Right. If we have mains, when we look at it in the mains lecture, I'll explain to you the mechanism of how this is all interrelated. But now we won't have time to do that. And for prelims, it's not necessary. Okay. To look at the drain theory in detail and everything like that. Socio-religious causes, of course, racism. Right. In the army, religious sign was not allowed. Indians couldn't reach all kinds of posts. Of course, they had this idea of providential mission, or they looked upon Indians as an inferior tribe, right? So providential mission is civilize Indians. How to civilize them? Convert them to Christian values. ஓகே, இதுல வந்து ரெண்டு ஸ்கூல் இருக்கு. கிறிஸ்டியன் வேல்யூஸ்னு சொல்றவங்க ஒன்னு, மாடர்ன் வேல்யூஸ்னு சொல்றவங்க இன்னொன்னு. Okay, these were the utilitarians. These were the radicals. The three schools, you know, no? And there was the Orientalists. Orientalists said we have a lot to learn from India as well. Okay, so people like who are some of the Orientalists? William Jones, Warren Hastings, they are all Orientalists. Radicals were mostly the Christian sort of rulers. They would be people like Curzon, who else can you say? Dufresne and people like that. Utilitarian rulers were more like Bentinck, who are more about rationalism and all of that. Okay, who were driven by the philosophies of Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill and all of them. So yeah, fine. Proselytization drive. That means what? Conversion. That irritated a lot of the tribes and people like that. So those tribal revolts and civil uprisings end up becoming the precursors of 1857. So yeah, abolition of sati by Bentinck. When did Widow Remarriage Act come? 1856. Right? With who? Who passed the Widow Remarriage Act 1856? Which Governor General, I mean? That's what I meant. Yeah, Dalhousie. Good. Bhuvanesh. So female infanticide was passed in the year much later. So remember the chronology. It was around 1899 and 1905, I think. They were called the Bengal Regulations. Okay. Female infanticide. Right? And what is the other social evil that they fought? Child marriage. Right? Now, Child Marriage Act, when was that passed? Which year was that and who passed it? Do you guys remember? Okay, check it and post it in the comment box. I'll tell you if you're right or wrong. Okay. So, tax of mosques and temples. There was an act which dealt with the child marriage. It was passed much later. Right. It was called the Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, no? He fought for it. And yeah, just give me a moment. I'm adjusting a few things here. Basically, the Child Marriage Restraint Act 1929. So it comes much later, but the precursor of that. What was this act all about? Sarda Act. What was the Sarda Act all about? Do you guys know Sarda Act? It still exists in India today. Okay. Refer to the date of this act. It's not striking my mind as of now, but look up the Sarda Act. Okay. Fine. We'll move over to the military causes quickly. So according to the military causes, yes, this is the same thing. Again, no religious symbols in the military was allowed. Which was irritating both the Hindus and the Muslims. A General Services Enlistment Act, which means they had to go overseas, which means people would lose their caste. So that irritated them. The Bata system, that is for the Punjab wars, they were promised some sort of money, which they were not given. So that irritated people. There was racism in promotion and privileges. Okay. Yeah, there Geetanjali goes. Special Marriage Act 1872 was for abolishing Child Marriage Act, which came earlier. Child Marriage Restraint Act is known as the Sharda Act. Okay. So that is the one which is still in force in India today, pretty much. Okay. I mean, it's not called the Sharda Act anymore, though people use the old name also. All right. Fine. It comes in 1929. The precursor of that was the Special Marriage Act, 1872. It culminates in the Sharda Act, right? But I just wanted to mention this Child Marriage Act for the sake of chronology. So 1872. So this happened somewhere here. Okay. So here child marriage will come. So widow remarriage was first, then child marriage, then female infanticide. That was the order. Okay. And when was sati abolished? With Bentinck, right? Sati with William Bentinck. Right, it was when Bentinck came in 1828, so he must have done it in 1829, 1830. So that comes first, Sati. So look at the chronology in how they were abolished. All right. So interrelate and study when you're studying for these things. All right. Like some of these things I'm just recalling off from my memory as I'm teaching the class. Okay. Yeah, good. 1829. Seriya? 1829, 1856, 1872, 99, 1905. All this has to do with women, which is why I put it up here, the chronology. Right? Fine. So we looked at military causes. Immediate causes we know, no? Enfield rifle. So greased cartridges. There was a rumor. We don't know if it's true or not. It says it is filled with the cow and pig fat. So that irritated all of the Hindus and the Muslims. The Sikhs were irritated because of the Bata system, the Bhatta system. Okay, so the three major religions who were a part of the army were all irritated. Okay, fine. Now we should look at the suppression of the revolt. When news about the seizure of Delhi spread, that is, when all of General Bakht Khan and all of them went from Meerut to Delhi and proclaimed Bahadur Shah Zafar, as the king, the soldiers from Punjab were recruited. Okay, Madras and Bombay didn't care about the revolt. In fact, some of them were brought to fight against 1857 also. Okay, British recaptured Delhi under the leadership of John Nicholson. This all is important for prelims. All right. And then what happened? Bahadur Shah Zafar was deported to Rangoon, Burma in 1862, and his sons were publicly shot dead. Who was the other leader who was deported to Rangoon? Do you guys remember that? Who else was deported to Rangoon? apart from Bahadur Shah Zafar? Where is Rangoon? Bahadur Shah 2. Okay, here I have some questions. I have some suggestions like Akbar 2 and Bahadur Shah 2. So those guys are not important. I was thinking more along the lines of Balagangadhar Tilak. Okay. The later Mughals are not that important actually. Akbar 2 and Bahadur Shah 2 and all. Yeah, Rangoon is in Burma. Good. Okay. So Balagangadhar Tilak. Lala Lajpat Rai. Lala Lajpat Rai, in which year was he sacked and why was he deported to Rangoon? I don't remember the reason. Venkatesh P. If you could mention it in the comments, it will be useful for all. Right, with Bal Gangadhar Tilak, it was one of the acts like sedition, but it was not Sedition Act, it was Indian Press Act. That was the act that was invoked to send Bal Gangadhar Tilak to Burma. Okay, Venkatesh P, I'm not sure about the Lala Lajpat Rai fact. So please let us know what the reason is. Okay. So in case we remember things wrong. So for now, we'll remember Bahadur Shah Zafar and Bal Gangadhar Tilak. All right. So in Lucknow, what happened is Begum Hasrat Mahal and Birjis Kadir was his son, defeated by Sir Colin Campbell. Okay. Also Nana Sahib and Tantia Tope. Right. Rani Lakshmi Bai was defeated by Sir Hugh Gross, not High Rose, Hugh Gross. And he basically said, here lay a woman among the men, something along the lines of, here lay the real, here lay a woman among the men who was more man than the men themselves, or something like that. Right? Hugh Gross said some famous quote like that about Rani Lakshmi Bai. Right? You would have seen Manikarnika and all of that. Right? So causes for failure of the revolt. It was localized, restricted, poorly organized. Right? It was not an all India revolt. Mostly in Bengal, North India. West and southern India were undisturbed mostly. Restricted to specific areas. So கான்பூர்னா கான்பூர்ல மட்டும்தான் சண்டை, டெல்லினா டெல்லியில மட்டும்தான். எல்லாரும் வந்து சேர்த்து சண்டை போடல. So there was no common ideology. The only common thing that they shared was resentment. Okay. There was disunity among the leaders. There was lack of ideology. Resources, technology, centralized command. The British were better. The educated elite stayed out. They were not a part of the movements, of these movements. Okay. So that's why they didn't get the ideological support. Fine. So some of the impacts. So the first impact was, of course, Government of India Act 1858. Go revise this, which is also called Queen Victoria's Proclamation. So after this, no more territorial expansion for the British. Okay, they decided we have plundered enough. Now we'll just plunder. And they also realized, first they said, okay, these Indians are children, so we have to civilize them and all of that. But after 1858, they said, no, 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 these guys are not children, they're barbarians. We shouldn't have even considered them children. So actually what happens is after 1858, the racism goes up, not it doesn't go get better. Because before 1858, the influence of Orientalists was a lot. Right, so that would include Max Muller, William Jones, Warren Hastings, all these people. Right. So when all these people were there, they said we have to learn from India as well because they also have a lot of unique ideas. Right now, but after 1858, 1857 revolt, it becomes way more racist oriented. Okay. It becomes about let's just exploit them. Let's not even try to be friends with them. Seriya? Amnesty for all except those who kill British officers. Native rights for princely states. Idhukku munnadi, right? Native rights for princely states. So they started appeasing the princely states because they were the ones who rebelled, na. So appease the princely states, exploit the Indian masses. Right. So they basically become your puppets. That was the basic idea, right? Doctrine of lapse was abolished, right? Civil Services Act 1861. So with this, with 1858 itself, Charter Act of 1858 itself, Indians begin to get recruited in the civil services. So Indians were given a part in the administration with Civil Services Act 1861. So you can see 58 thandi 61 pakatla, right? Changes in the military structure. Now the Hindus, the Muslims were all divided, divide and rule. So the theory of martial races came about, and that continues still today, right? They came up with things like Madras Regiment, which was also called and is still called the Tambi Regiment, right? Then they had the Gurkha Regiment, and you have the Jat Regiment and all of that. They all said these are the races, various races, right? So policy of divide and rule, self-explanatory. End of Orientalism, I mentioned that. More aggression and racism. Indian Councils Act 1861, along with Civil Services Act 1861 also, more representation. So it was a kind of appeasement only, based on the situation, okay? And further economic exploitation, right? Especially with the rise of the railways and all of that after that. So it became a mix of economic utilitarianism along with colonial racism. So Venkatesh P has retracted his message. Okay, Lala Lajpat Rai was not sent to Burma. All right, because I didn't remember any fact like that. If it was, it would have been important. So for now, we'll remember those two leaders. Seriya? Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Bahadur Shah Zafar when it comes to Burma. Now, let us look at the economic impact before we move on, because this is an important part. So there are three important parts, okay? Economic drain, the administrative drain. This can be divided into civil service, military, police, and C, social. Here you can divide it into education and press. Seriya? So we will not be dealing with most of these today except economic drain. So yeah, I've given you this substructure so that you can make your notes. Today, go write down the substructure and do a bit of research on civil service reforms. We won't have time for that, but it's more like a mains lecture. But prelims le chumma therinjikradhukku, the names and all of that, right? Go through that. Military la irundhe 90% questions varadu. Okay, not that important. Okay. Police, because police reforms is in the news and everything, go through it. Edukum. Okay, but though they don't ask much questions from there either. Civil services la irundhu dhaan nariya questions varum prelims ku. Seriya? The other one being education reforms and press reforms. So press and those various acts, press la what's important is the acts and the names of newspapers. Factual padinga podum. Seriya? Education la name of the various committees. Make notes. All right. Fine. So this is the, I've also mentioned in the end what all you should study after the class today, because we only have 3 days for modern India. No? It's not enough. We have to pack in a lot. So I had to pick and choose. So these are all self-explanatory, which is why I decided, you can study it by yourself. Economic drain, we'll look at it in more detail. Prelims liyum seri, mains liyum seri. Mains la kandipa 1 or 2 questions from this area, economic impact. Paper 1 layum seri, paper 2 avum irukattum, paper 3 kuda land reforms related ah kekranga. Okay va? And prelims liyum vandu pathina lot 1 or 2 questions, at least one question related to this economics has been the trend. All right. It was not there for the past 2 years, but before that, they used to ask one question from this always. Fine. So we'll go through this in detail. So this economic impact of British rule in India was the colonial policy of the British, which is you ship out all the money from the colonies. Okay. You take out all the money. Now, how do you take out all the money? In the form of tax. And how do you get tax? Once you get political control. Okay. Now, what do you do with that money? So, இது ரெண்டுல இருந்து money வருது. Take it back to England. Okay. England you fund your industrialization. This will create more goods. You bring that back to the colony. Sell here. Get more money. Okay. This is how the profits were extracted. So you sell the goods and you get more money. And இங்க இருக்கிற profits அதை வந்து you do capital investment like the railways. Okay. And once you have railways, you can use it to shuttle around resources and all of that and create more profit. Seriya? So this is a very snapshot of the mechanism of the drain. So when we look at the mains lecture, we'll look at it in much more detail. So mains படிக்கிறோம்னா in the economic drain மட்டும் I will teach for 45 to 50 minutes. Okay. So that you know the structure and you can draw this diagram. Okay. We'll do it in much more detail. This is just to give you a general picture as of now. That was what was called the drain of wealth. We know the land revenue settlements. What happened with that? Ruralization of the peasantry. What were the effects of it? Ruralization, deindustrialization, absentee landlordism, okay, and the legacy of that today, what we see, this is not a part of history, so I'm not going to write it here in case you get confused, is what you call as feminization of agriculture, which Amartya Sen talks about. Okay, fine. Anyways, feminization of agriculture na ennadana, the phenomena where all the men go into the cities and live in the slums and do work. So women end up taking care of the agriculture, and you know the agricultural people are the most exploited and the most weak, and they end up being women. Seriya? Fine. So deindustrialization, I had already explained how losing patronage of the princes screwed up the industries and the artisans and things like that, right? The local industries, because they didn't have any patronage anymore, and so they also went back to the villages to do agriculture. And what happened? The landlords, they came to the cities because they could afford, they could have more money now, no? So now these landlords, they started mimicking the British. They started being like them. So அங்கிருந்து வந்தது தான் இந்த absentee landlordism. சரியா? Right? Commercialization of agriculture. Ipo, there is no relationship between the landlord and you. This fellow sitting somewhere else, he hires a couple of gundas, money lenders and all those kinds of people, and he basically says what? That you have to pay me this much amount of money. I don't care. You have to give me this much, otherwise I'm not going to pay you anything. So because of the poverty involved, the peasants will grow whatever, na? And for them what? They'll grow indigo and other cash crops as compared to food crops. Now that will lead to what? Famines. It will lead to more poverty, which means what? More power to the money lender. So the zamindar or the guy in the city, absentee landlord, will tell the peasant, oh, let me help you out. I'll bring you this money lender guy. He'll give you this money, but for exorbitant rate of interest. Right? Now that rate of interest, the peasant cannot pay. Right? So the whole structure was sort of collapsing. Okay. So then they would beat up the peasants, or what they would do is they would get sexual favors or things like that. Okay. Fine. So also resulted in the growth of landless labor, because more money was starting to be held by very few. And suddenly this money became the source of power. Seriya? This land reform problems continues up to modern day India today. இன்னைக்கு வரைக்கும் அது கண்டினியூ ஆகுது. சரியா? Fine. Now we shall look at economic drain in a bit more detail, like I said. So in simple terms, what does economic drain mean? It means GNP, which is what? GDP order minus depreciation is GNP. Okay. Not available for consumption of the Indians. Seriya? So whatever is produced here, the value, right? It is not consumed by the Indians, but it's consumed abroad. Which is another way of saying all the money created is not spent here, is taken back to England. Okay. Money being drained away to England by muscle power and political power without adequate returns or compensation. Seriya? There is a thing called the multiplier effect, right, in economics. So what happens is, if you spend X amount of money locally, the value it creates is way more. So 100 ரூபாய் நீங்க இங்க ஸ்பெண்ட் பண்றீங்கன்னா, அந்த 100 ரூபாய்க்கு உங்களுக்கு ஒரு ஐட்டம் கிடைக்குதுன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. ஆனா அந்த 100 ரூபாய் மட்டும் எஃபெக்ட் கிடையாது எக்கனாமிக் லெவல்ல. அங்க வாங்குறவனுக்கு அது ஒரு 100 ரூபாய், அவன் வேலை பண்ணறவங்களுக்கு கொடுக்கறதுக்கு தட் இஸ் 100 ரூபாய். அங்கிருந்து ஒரு காசு ஆகும். ஸோ 100 ரூபாய் மட்டும் இது இல்லை, அவனோட ப்ராஃபிட் ஒரு 20 ருபீஸ் வரும். அதுக்கப்புறம் அதுல அந்த அந்த 20 ருபீஸ் ப்ராஃபிட்ல இருந்து அவன் ஒரு 10 ருபீஸ் சேலரி கொடுக்குறான். அப்போ அந்த 100 ரூபாயோட மல்டிப்ளையர் எஃபெக்ட் பாருங்க. ஆக்சுவல் வேல்யூ இட்ஸ் கிரியேட்டிங் in these two examples is 100 rupees you are paying for him, let's say 20 rupee profit, and then 10 rupees for the next laborer, 130 rupees. So that 100 rupees gets multiplied, right? So this is what we call as the multiplier effect. So now this was not going on. In fact, something like the dividing effect was going on, right? Whatever was happening was being more broken up and taken back to England. Otherwise, there's no way a country which produced 23% of the GDP is impoverished to about 1.2%. 23% எப்போ? Up till the 1700s. This is nothing. This is like human history in பார்த்தனா thousands of years பார்த்தனா 200 years ago. Just 200 years ago, we were producing 23% of the world's GDP, man. Unbelievable, no? And today, look at us now. Right? That's the problem. Seriya? And we were creating this amount of money without destroying the environment. Okay? And you can read foreigner accounts. There was no begging in India before the British came. Okay? There was no poverty. There was exploitation, yes, but there was no poverty. Okay? In that sense of the word. Seriya? Anyways. So, the Indian Association கிடையாது. Dadabhai Naoroji is what? East India Association. He founded it. He came up with the drain theory. That's why I mentioned him here. He formed the East India Association where in London to lobby in the parliament because he was also an MP. So yeah, he wrote famous books. Poverty and un-British rule in India, everybody knows. But you know, nowadays UPSC is asking all these weird questions in the name of difficulty. So I just did some extra work. So he also wrote these papers, English Debt to India, Wants and Means of India. Okay, not, he wrote this newspaper or journal called Rast Goftar. All right. And another fact about Dadabhai Naoroji was the head of the Congress sessions in 1893 and 1906. He was one of the tall moderate leaders. Seriya? Fine. This is just a fact, a small detour into the fact. In 1800 la வந்து பார்த்தோம்னா 8 million pounds was being taken back to England. By 1900 that figure had gone to 34 million அந்த காலத்து இதுல. ஸோ இன்னைக்கு வந்து கால்குலேஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ட்ரில்லியன்ஸ் ஆஃப் டாலர்ஸ்ல இருக்கு இந்த 33 மில்லியன் பவுண்ட்ஸுங்கிறது வந்து, which was stolen from India. Okay. So others who gave drain theory, in the drain theory பத்தி வந்து ஒரு தாட்டி கேட்டிருந்தாங்க 1, 2 and 3. remember R.C. Dutt, Subramania Iyer and Dadabhai Naoroji. Everybody knew Dadabhai Naoroji, R.C. Dutt, but people didn't mark Subramania Iyer. Okay. R.C. Dutt wrote what? Economic History of India. So I mentioned all the people in regards to economic drain who all did work. Okay, there was this guy called Vacha, G.V. Joshi, R.C. Dutt, Subramania Iyer, Praful Chandra Ray, and M.G. Ranade. M.G. Ranade was a famous economist from Maharashtra and social reform leader as well, who you must know. Okay, Praful Chandra Ray also. Okay, this G.V. Joshi and Vacha you remember for prelims. Otherwise, it's not that important. It's only to trick you they will ask. Okay. So major components of this whatever you call this plunder. Okay, now the first two was a part of direct plunder. Well, I don't want to say direct plunder, sorry, visible plunder. These were visibly done. This is the classification that Dadabhai Naoroji gives. Done invisibly. So yeah. So under this visible, there was direct plunder, which we saw, like after Battle of Plassey and Buxar and everything like that. Profit through trade, which is that private corruption, private tradeல இருந்து வர்றது இதெல்லாம். சரியா? இதெல்லாம் வந்து invisible. இது பத்தி எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியும். These invisible things, what all this included? Salaries and pensions. Okay. So the money taken from India was used to improve. So economic exploitation to consolidate political power. How do you consolidate political power? You set up civil services, army, pay them salaries and pensions. Okay. Stores purchased in Britain for civil and military departments. So இந்த salaries and pensions இருக்காங்கல்ல அவங்களோட ஆஃபீஸ் எக்ஸ்பென்சஸ்க்கு you set up stores in England. Okay. Third one, interests on loan taken by the Indian government abroad. Okay. Next, profits on foreign investments in India. All this money, this interest money, profit money, இது எல்லாமே went back to England majorly. Next one, payments to be made for shipping, banking, etc. சரியா? And all this money was shipped back. So the profit of the British company, which is also the crown after 1858, goes up, and this profit re-enters India's finance capital. Okay. And with this finance capitalism is how ultimate domination comes about, and that system of capitalism is something which continues up till the present day. Okay. Now finance capital, what are the three stages of capitalism? Mercantilism, which is merchants. This is pre 1833 and pre 1853. ஏன்னா 1833 and 1853 தான் idea of laissez-faire and all that comes about, no? Second is free trade or laissez-faire. Third is finance capital. So these are the three stages. So we'll deal with this more under mains in how these mechanisms work in detail. Now, finance capitalism was what was criticized by Lenin in his famous book International Political Economy, and he speaks about how finance capitalism helps to dominate the working classes further. Free trade வந்து criticize பண்ணது Karl Marx, of course, Das Kapital and all those books, no? Right? He wrote a lot of books. One of the most profound philosophers of our times. Lenin was the one who criticized finance capitalism. This is all just for your information. You don't need to know. Okay. So effects of the drain. So இதெல்லாம் வந்து மகப் பண்ணிக்கோங்க இங்க இருக்கிறதெல்லாம் which form the part of the drain அப்படின்னு கேட்டா இதெல்லாம் தான் சரியா. Economic effects, of course, laws of capital, this is the major thing. India la there is no capital being created, all the capital which is being created is in England. They say the capital we created is the railways, but that is such a bullshit argument, no, because they use it further for more exploitation. So it's not really capital in that sense of the word, right? Because it helps them get more profit only. Seriya. So this was the major thing. Seriya? Loss of unemployment and income, this all makes sense easily. Deindustrialization, and again related to the agriculture part which I explained in the beginning. Okay. Political effects, of course, it gave rise to common political consciousness. And you had the rise of the moderates. With that, right? Dadabhai Nauroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, and all of them. Seriya? These were what the effects of the drain were. Fine. So let us look at some questions in related to the drain hypothesis. This is just to show you, you know, how the number of questions that they ask from this. Okay. So yeah, these are pretty much try these out. Question 1 and question 2. 1 is 2. Wait, 1 is C. Dadabhai Nauroji, this everybody should get. What about 2? 2 la வந்து Nirmal Kumar says C. 1 and 3. Answer is all 3. Okay, this is a trick question. Surendranath Banerjee also wrote an economic critique. இந்த நேமை வந்து நான் அங்க மென்ஷன் பண்ணல. சரியா, நான் வந்து ஒரு 5 பேர் சர்ச் பண்ணி மென்ஷன் பண்ணா இந்த கொஸ்டின்ல சுரேந்திரநாத் Banerjee is also there. Okay, he also wrote about economics. What is the other thing that he did? Civil service reforms. Okay, fine. So this is a trick question. Seriya? Fine. Then, try out the next question. Third one. Priyadarshini says 3 is A. Right? All of the above சொல்றீங்க, all of the above கிடையாது. The answer is only one. He only dealt with economic exploitation. சரியா? He didn't deal with ancient texts or anything. He lived in London, man. He never read Indian texts. He read Western economics, which is why he gave drain hypothesis. He was not involved in social reform either. So it is only one. Answer is B. Okay. Fine. All right. Try the next one. Question 4. Home charges. Home charges was what I showed you in that slide, which is charges which were applied in India, in the name of India, and what it was used to fund. B, 2 and 3, she says. Answer is D. Okay, all of the above. All 3. Seriya? Okay, fine. We'll move on. Fourth one, who says A? One only la kadaya. Answer is D. Okay, fine. We'll move on. Railways. Okay. Now with railways, we have all heard the positives, no? That it was an investment It brought infrastructure to India. It united India, right? Administrative convenience ki easier irundhuchu. All of this we hear. Okay. But railways was not seen as Indian capital but British capital. Okay. So it was more like British private profit, Indian public loss. Seriya? Because now what they could do? They could source raw material with the trains and send it throughout India. It made it easier for them to increase their exploitation. நான் முதல்ல வந்து மெதுவா மெதுவா ரோட்வேஸ்லயே அதுலயும் நீங்க கொண்டு வரணும். Whatever the material you're taking, let's say cotton for instance. Now you can amp up the cotton. If you want, you can amp up the cotton. Now you will give more demands to the peasant, no, who's cultivating. So there'll be more racism, more exploitation, and things like that. Okay, this sort of thing happens only after 1857, right? When it comes to the peasant life, you would have seen the Tamil movie Paradesi and all of that, right? So that happens in the plantation crops. Plantation la irukkiradhu the worst form of exploitation happened in British plantations. Okay. Another thing is the railways. It made British good for the Indian markets, right? British goods were brought back to the Indian markets and sold. The Indian products were destroyed. Okay, all this was done in the name of free trade. Okay, so it had nothing to do with free trade. All right, which is why generally when people say free trade, others will talk about fair trade in economics. All right, it was strategic. Now they could shuttle the military and the police wherever they want. In England, industrialization took place, allied sectors. The whole industrial revolution, the great industrial revolution as they call it, was financed by the economic exploitation of India and the other colonies, of course, but largely, as they say, India was the gem in the crown or something like that, no? The pearl in the crown of the British crown or something. The gem in the crown of the British or something like that, right? So that is what they said, right? Who was the investor? Indians were not allowed to invest. Even rich Indian merchants or like Indian businessmen were not allowed to invest. Only the British were allowed to invest. Because Indians were allowed to invest, Indians will get profit, na? And those Indians might put that profit back and they might get powerful or develop India and things like that. So yeah, and the government guaranteed 5% profit to the investor. Okay, now this 5% where it was paid from the drain of wealth, from the taxes and all of that. Okay, this automatically led to various famines. Okay, because now the food grains could be completely shuttled for British use, not for local use. And then you would say grow cash crops. So the food crops will go down. And we face that problem till today, don't we? In terms of course, we don't have famines, but in terms of the fact that we are not eating well. The Green Revolution, in that sense, now we are realizing has lived its course. No? Because it's not doing enough for the nutrition. It's doing enough for the hunger, but not for the nutrition. It's good to keep you alive. It's not good enough to help you live a good life. Seriya? Positives பார்த்துட்டோம். I had mentioned it. Okay. The gem of the crown can be compared with Kohinoor diamond on the queen's crown. Yes, yes. India was called that, right? The crown jewel. Yeah. The crown jewel is what we were called. Good. Yeah. Okay. Fine. So what was the Indian response to all of this? Okay, to economic drain, right? So economic drain was the major thing which brought about nationalism in India. This concept of economic drain. This gave rise to the nationalism in India. This exploitation. Okay, but it took Indians so much time to understand what was happening. They didn't understand modern economics, nor did they understand modern law and negotiations and treaties. Okay, so we can say there were two types of responses: traditional responses and the modern responses. So yeah, the traditional responses you can divide into peasant movements, tribal uprisings, civil uprisings, and revolt of 1857. Modern, of course, you can split it into moderates, extremists, revolutionaries. This can be pre-Gandhian. And then we have what we call the Gandhian phase. Okay. Now this revolutionary thing is both pre-Gandhian as well as Gandhian. But it's not a part of the Gandhian phase, obviously. But there was a rise of revolutionary activities in the 1920s after the non-cooperation movement was withdrawn, as we know. அதுக்கு முன்னாடி it happens in the post 1905. Okay, 1908, sorry, after the Swadeshi and boycott movements it happens. Seriya? Fine. So yeah, these are the four. We just saw it, right? So modern responses, I put the I drew a thing there, but of course economic critique, Congress phase, you can call it Gandhian phase, socio-religious reform movements as well. Okay, இது இன்னொரு மாதிரி கிளாசிஃபை பண்ணிக்கலாம். இது இன்னொரு கிளாசிஃபிகேஷன். சரியா, அங்க வந்து நான் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா கிளாசிஃபை பண்ணேன் ஆன் த ஸ்பாட்ல. This is another classification which is given. Okay, this classification thing is for you to arrange things in your mind. உங்க மைண்ட்ல அரேஞ்ச் பண்றதுக்கு தான் இந்த கிளாசிஃபிகேஷன். சரியா, அதுதான் வந்து கிளாஸோட பாயிண்ட். சரியா, இல்லைன்னா வந்து ஹிஸ்டரி பாலிட்டி ப்ரிலிம்ஸ் பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் மோஸ்ட்லி ஃபேக்சுவல் தான். சரியா, ஒன்று வந்து I'll help you remember it by structuring and then explain certain things. It's more like a revision. சரியா, fine. So what are again traditional responses நீங்க ஜட்ஜ் பண்ணணும்னா what can you judge it based on? The nature of it, the area, that is where did it happen, how did it happen, was it violent or not, the planning of it, which also means the issues involved, right, and all of that. So yeah, you can look at it in these four forms. One common feature of the traditional responses is they were based on local issues and against local leaders or local grievances. They didn't have national content, including the revolt of 1857, which had a little bit of some sort of unity, but the other traditional responses didn't have any of that. Okay, we'll look at a few of these right now. Okay, we can further divide the traditional responses by geography. Right now I've divided it by geography. Okay, Bengal and Eastern India. First one is the Sannyasi revolt. Okay, the cause is the famine of 1770. Okay, it was due to interference in religious practices. All right, this is the Sannyasi revolt. I'm just helping you revise. Fine. Chuar uprising. This happened in Midnapur, right, which is again in the near the Chota Nagpur area. Multiple times. It starts in 1766 and then again in 1795. Okay. The reasons for this were again famine and the land revenue system. Inge on the religious. This is easy to remember. Na sannyasi na religious. Inge on the famine and land revenue. Chuar. Okay. Fine. Next is the Ho uprising. This is also the Chota Nagpur area. Right. The area disturbed till 1831, which is, this was a long uprising. Okay, fine. And here what were the issues? Outsiders, revenue systems, and all of that. All right. Right. And also messing around with the environment. இது மூணுமே Hawk. Fine. Coal uprising, again Chota Nagpur plateau, transfer of land to the others. So other people were taken in, like the money lenders. New people started moving because of the railways and things like that. Okay, this is coal. Next is Kand uprising, 1856. This is because they had a human sacrifice practice which was banned. So again, Kand and Sannyasi revolt is more based on religious reasons. Okay, where was this? Patna, in the UP area. Chakra Bishnoi was the leader. Seriya? Nowadays they're asking all obscure movements, yeah. So I'm just picking a few of these because it's impossible to say what is important right now. ஏன்னா ரொம்ப டிஃபிகல்ட்டான ஏரியாஸும் கேட்குறாங்க. ஸோ உங்கள் லக்கு வந்துச்சுன்னா இதில் இந்த ஸ்லைட்ஸில் ஏதாவது இருந்து வந்துச்சுன்னா நீங்கள் ஆன்சர் பண்ணலாம். அதே மாதிரி யூ வுட் ஹவ் ரிவைஸ்ட் பை யுவர் செல்ஃப் ஆல்சோ. அதுலேயும் வந்து யூ வில் it's increasing your chances at luck only for the difficult questions. சரியா? Santal, this is an important one. It happens in the Rajmahal Hills, that is east of Chota Nagpur Plateau. Three issues here: revenue issue, money lender issue, police abuse. Okay. In the Santal movement, this term was officially coined, Dikkus, by Sidhu and Kanho, the leaders. Okay. Santals declared themselves to be independent. So which people declared themselves to be independent? The Santals. Seriya? Fine. Next is the Ahom revolt. The name of the leader is Konwar, and this was directly related to the first Burma war. Okay. So they British wanted to fight the Burmese for the first Burma war, and then they had some understanding with the Ahoms, and of course an understanding becomes a misunderstanding, and then the Ahoms also revolt. Okay, the Ahom kingdom still exists largely, Burma, right? So that it's I'm sorry, not in Burma, in both countries, Burma, Bhutan, Assam, Sikkim. So these are the areas where this tribes called Ahoms are spread. Okay, fine. Yeah, it's majorly Assam. அந்த டைம்ல வந்து இந்த இதெல்லாம் இல்ல, சிக்கிம்ங்கிற டிவிஷன் எல்லாம் இல்ல. 1975ல தான் சிக்கிம் வருது இல்லையா? So primarily it was Assam, but they were also spread. They had ethnic relations across, right? Which is a problem we see still today, right? For exam purposes, if they ask you Ahom, remember Assam, AA. Okay, fine. Kasi uprising. Where are the Garo Kasi and Jaintia hills? Which state? Good, Meghalaya. Okay, so Meghalaya la dhan Garo Kasi Jaintia hills. What is unique about these tribes in Garo Kasi and Jaintia hills? They are matrilineal, some of these tribes. Okay, some of them are matrilineal. That's an important fact for you to remember. Matrilineal na, it is not patriarchal. They derive ipo appa per vekkira mari, they'll keep the mother's name, right? Nama medieval history la who else is a matrilineal kingdom? the Satvahanas, Gautami Putra Satkarni, right? Remember that? Okay. Anyways, I'm just interrelating topics. Now, Kashi revolt was related to an infrastructure project, road linking Sylhet with Brahmaputra Valley. அதுக்கு வந்து the Englishmen went in and they took in laborers with them, so they revolted. They said, you are destroying the environment, you're bringing in new people, you don't belong here and all of that. Seriya? Next is Pagalpanthis. The leaders were Karamsha and Tippu. Right, they were a semi-religious sect. The பேர்லயே பாருங்க Pagalpanthis. பாகல்னா ஹிந்தில என்ன கொஞ்சம் crazy. Okay. So these guys actually captured and occupied power. Okay. The other people who declared themselves independent were who? The Santals and the Pagalpanthis. Okay, Santals and Pagalpanthis. So இது ஒரு commonality. சரியா? Fine. 10th one is the Faraisi revolt. This is one of the Muslim revolts. You can actually divide these revolts by religion also. So among the Muslim revolts, you will have what? Faraisi, Deoband, what are the other two? Of course, you had the movement by Syed Ahmad Khan, the Aligarh movement, but that is a different, it's not a tribal and peasantry movement, right? So there's another. Okay, there's Deoband, Faraisi, and there is another one also. Okay, I can't quite remember it. So you look it up. Anyways, the leader here, you just mug up Haji Shariatullah and Dadu Mian. Syria? Of the Faraisi revolt. This was against the Hindu landlords. Faraisis were the Muslim peasants. Right? Oh yeah, Deoband and Wahhabi, correct. Bhuvanesh, yeah, right man. All three. Syria, how could I forget Wahhabi? Yeah. All three. Syria, this was more a peasant movement. Okay. But I thought Deoband and Wahhabi are interrelated. Anyways, you guys check it out. Fine. Next is the Munda revolt. This is important. Birsa Munda was the leader. Okay. Chota Nagpur Plateau. The reason was destruction of land holding due to Jagirdari system and money lenders. He was considered an avatar and everything, no? This Birsa Munda. So that's important here. Okay. So now we'll look quickly at Western India. Northeastல இருந்து தான் நிறைய கேக்குறாங்க these tribal and peasant movements, but they might change it any year. Yeah. So Western India we have what you call the Bhil uprising. I've just put down the keywords. Okay. Sevaram was the leader. Khandesh was the area. Agrarian hardship was the reason. This is when did it happen? Started in 1817 and again in 1824. Okay, next one is the Gujarat one, Kutch rebellion 1816 to 1832. So the British interfered in their internal issues. This was the cause. Okay, the leader was Rao Baramal. They wanted to get rid of him. That was the reason. Okay, and this Kutch was British resident was there anyways, and he was interfering too much. Therefore, the Kutch rebellion happened. Okay, fine. Waghera uprising. This happened in the Oka Mandal area. Not that important, but I just mentioned it. Koli uprising, 1829, 1839, and a few more times after that. Neighborhood of the bills, resentment against unemployment. That was the major reason. Okay. Then we have the Ramosi revolt, 1822. This is important. Western Ghats la Chittur Singh, due to British maladministration. Okay, the leader is Chittur Singh. Surat salt agitation because they raised the duty on salt, raising hill duty to 1 rupee. Okay, so we see the precursor of the Dandi March here itself. Then Kolhapur, there was the Gadkari community, which is called the Kolhapur revolt. They were the military leaders under the Marathas, and after the Marathas were deposed, உங்களுக்கு என்ன ஆச்சு, this community was jobless, and whenever you have a military community which is jobless, they'll fight with each other and create all sorts of violence, right? That is what happens, right? Fine. Some of the movements in Western India, these are, we only have time to go through some. There are a lot more, obviously, but I've just tried to pick a few ones. Okay. South India, of course, we have Raja of Villayanagaram, the Poligar revolt, just because of land issues and everything. They were, you know, they had to pay a huge amount to the British and they could only keep a small amount for themselves. This happened in Coimbatore as well, the Poligar revolt. Diwan Veluthampi in Travancore. So Travancore is one of the states which doesn't hesitate to free India also. Okay. Diwan of Travancore. It was one of the well-governed states. Okay. Diwan of Travancore. It was one of the well-governed states. Well-governed princely states. So they also revolted. Rampa revolt in Andhra Pradesh against forest laws and the Mansabdars. Mansabdars were the nothing but the, under the British time they were called Mansabdars. Under the Mughal times they were called Mansabdars. Under the British they came to be called as Zamindars. So this Rampa revolt is in Andhra Pradesh. All right. This is all for you to remember. Fine. I'm just going to check on the timing. Okay. We're making good time. I'm just going to drink some water. All right. South India kapram. Oh yeah, the North Indian ones. So I've classified it as North Indian here. Generally, you can split it based on religious movements as well, right? So Hindu, Muslim, and those sorts of things. So North Lavandi, you had the Wahhabi movement. By Syed Ahmad of Ray Bareli. Okay, now this is different from Syed Ahmad Khan, who was part of the Muslim revival, right? Or it was called the Mohammedan Renaissance. He started Aligarh Muslim College and all of that. Okay, fine. And then, of course, in the Wahhabi movement, the two important leaders are Syed Ahmad of Ray Bareli and the preacher was Abdul Wahab. Okay, Kuka revolt. The two important leaders are Sian Sahib and Jawahar Mahal. Jawahar Mahal, this is more in the Punjab area about the Sikhs. This was more progressive movement about discrimination, women's rights, and things like that. Seriya. These are some things you have to remember. Okay. Both of these had religious content. Okay. Fine. So the next traditional movements among the traditional responses, revolt of 1857. This one we already saw. All right. Fine. So with this we come to end of one sort of a segment. So, and now we move on to the next segment, right? So, and the next segment is what we call the modern responses. Okay. What were the causes for these things? I mentioned a few here. The rise of nationalism. These are all interrelated, okay? Fine. Impact of the British rule, which is economic exploitation of India. Inspiration from Western movements like liberty, concepts like liberty, equality, fraternity. You had the French Revolution, the American Revolution, the British Revolution, right? The Protestant Reformation, many of these things, which had progressive ideas. Modern education, the rise of the press, transport and communication, political integration indirectly. So if you have like things like transport and communication, railway lines and all of that, there also political integration happens, right? Indirectly. Directly it doesn't happen. If directly it happened, we would have had the Indian freedom movement much before. It wouldn't have taken up to 1947, right? So the institutions where you start getting representation vis-a-vis the Indian Councils Act, and then leading upon to the Government of India acts, the various Government of India acts. Okay, the economic critique as we know it, that also helps to bring about political consolidation. New social classes. So now you had Indians, middle class, upper, lower, then you had working class movements, right? Peasants alla eppume da irundanga, but these classes were new. Middle classes, working classes, and all of that. Okay, rise of political parties. Okay, reform and revival movements, the socio-religious movements like Arya Samaj, Brahma Samaj, Prarthana Samaj, and all of that, right? uh, Specific draconian acts because of the British partition of Bengal 1905, vernacular press act, and all of that, right? So all this irritates people. Okay, Ilbert Bill controversy in 1882, vernacular press act 1878, Universities Act 1904, right? Especially during the time of Lighton, right? These were the reasons why we had the modern early political movements were shaped by these things. Okay, and the second slide is the Taniave Pota world events that influenced this: Crimean War, Russo-Japanese War 1905, where the Japanese beat the Russians, destroyed Western supremacy in the minds of Indians. Ethiopia versus Italy, where Ethiopia crushes Italy. World wars were also, going on. I mean, the world was, it starts in 1914 to 1918, but the precursors is what I mean. Precursor of the world was already building up. Simon Bolivar movement in where? South America. So Bolivia is named after Simon Bolivar. Okay, who was a famous leader. So his movement and all of that. So yeah, all these were the influences. Fine. So let's start with the modern responses. Politics of association. So this was mostly in the early half of the 19th century. 19th century is in early 1850s, around that area. So yeah, around that time, right? So this was mostly by the aristocratic elements, which means the kings, princes, or these sorts of people who got educated, because they were only managed education, mostly speaking, right? Or richer segments, they were the ones involved. Okay. Now this politics of association happened only in Bengal, and it happened locally only. It was not something that we see widely at this point in time. So yeah, it spreads to other areas much later. That's why it is called the Bengal Renaissance, not the Indian Renaissance, mostly speaking. So yeah. So what was the method followed by the moderates? The moderates were the ones who give rise to this politics of association. PPP stands for plea, prayer, petition. What kinds of demands they were making? For political representation. So this is Indian Councils Acts, administrative representation in the prayer, petition, protest. Plea, prayer, petition. Yeah, yeah, Ramesh Kumar. Prayer, petition, and protest. Plea, prayer, petition kuda solluvanga. So it doesn't matter. PPP, whatever. It's not that important. Administrative representation in the civil services. Throw it open to the Indians and those sorts of demands. Okay, these were the demands that they were making. So we'll look at some of these. Okay, there are a lot more. We are just going to look at some of these. I'll ask you guys go and read the rest of it today. So Banga Bhasha Sabha, one of the earliest by followers of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Okay, in 1838, the Zamindari Association or Landholder Society was formed. As we can see, the word Zamindari, it was about the interests of the landed classes. சரியா 1843ல பெங்கால் பிரிட்டிஷ் இந்தியா சொசைட்டி அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு this was about increasing awareness, spreading information, etc. Okay, and then British Indian Association. The British Indian Association did things like sending petition to Parliament. Okay, they asked for more separation of powers, reduction in the salaries of the military and the civil services because they were well acquainted or familiar with the drain theory. Okay, abolition of salt duty இதெல்லாம் அவங்க கேட்டாங்க. East India Association, Dadabhai Nauroji. Okay, Indian League, Sisir Kumar Ghosh, who also is associated with Amrita Bazar Patrika. Okay, Indian Association 1876, Surendranath Banerjee, which is what? Surendranath Banerjee is known for civil service reforms and protests. Anand Mohan Bose is also a part of this. ICS reforms. This got merged with the INC later on. Okay. West India, Westla. 1867, Pune Sarvajanik Sabha by M.G. Ranade. 1885, Bombay Presidency Association by, okay, this is all Feroz Shah Mehta. And Badruddin Tyabji. Okay. 1884, Madras Mahajan Sabha, Anand Charlu, Subramania Iyer, and Veera Raghavachari. There's three of them. Okay, these were the leaders involved. All right. So apart from these, there is the various reform and revival movements, which you will have to go and look at your spectrum in the last page and just, before the exam comes, keep looking at it multiple times. In that, a few things are important, and I will just mention to you which ones you should be looking at. Okay, right now. I've just made a note of these which you should look at. The important ones being, give me a moment. Okay, of course the other ones you need to look at. Let's see if I can get an empty slide. Okay, that's fine. Brahmo Samaj. It was previously called the Atmiya Sabha. Okay, do that in detail. Arya Samaj. This becomes important. It comes later on, right? This becomes important. It comes later on. Right? This is in 1835. This is in 1878 by Swami Dayanand Saraswati. Why is this famous and why is this controversial? Because of the Shuddhi movements, where they try converting the converted Hindus back into Hinduism. Okay, this is important. So this is called a reform movement. This is called a revival movement. So these two are important. Okay, of course. And then we have the whole Tattva Bodhini Sabha. That's not important. The politics between Debendranath Tagore, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, and all of that. It's not important. Prarthana Samaj. Okay. It was founded by Atmaram Pandurang with the help of Keshub Chandra Sen. Okay. The New Bengal, the Young Bengal movement, Henry Viven Dirosio, who are atheists. This is important. Okay. Then we have, they will not ask you Paramahans Mandalis and all. I'm guessing. Satyashojak Samaj, this is important. This is by Jyotirao Phule and Savitra Bai Phule, his wife. Savitri Bai. Okay, this was against upper caste domination. They wrote the books Gulam Giri and Sarvajanik Satyadharma. Okay, remember that. Fine. Then two organizations related to Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Mark these up. Servants of India Society, Social Service League. Though over here he's only associated with it, don't fall for the trick. It's by his student Malhar Joshi. Okay, who also founded the All India Trade Union Congress. Who's one of the founders. Okay, Ramakrishna movement, Swami Vivekananda, all that is easy. Most of us know already. So all that part is fine. Arya Samaj I already mentioned, which is important. Seva Sadhan, next one. Parsi reform movements la. B.M. Malabari. He starts the Seva Sadhan. Okay. Why is this important? This is about Parsi women and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Dev Samaj. This is in Lahore by Shiv Narayan Agnihotri. Agnihotri. Just remember. I think you're all familiar. ஏன்னா நம்ம சவுத் இந்தியன்ஸ்னா ஃபர்ஸ்ட் அதை தானே பார்ப்போம். நாராயண குரு மூவ்மெண்ட், ஜஸ்டிஸ் மூவ்மெண்ட், செல்ஃப் ரெஸ்பெக்ட் மூவ்மெண்ட், இதெல்லாம் நமக்கு தெரியும். Indian things, major ones, justice. Okay, this is not founded by